Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. My name is Brandon Martin. I am the Inbound Marketing and Content Manager here at Agilquest. We're excited to have you with us today. Before we get started, I'd like to direct your attention to the navigation panel to the right of your webinar screen, where you will see a chat window and a Q&A window. Please feel free to enter your questions into the Q&A window at any point throughout today's demo, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. If you have additional comments or need assistance, please use the chat panel. Now let's meet our presenters. Today we have Don Davidson, Chief Revenue Officer, who will provide some background of the Agilquest Forum. Michael Matat is our lead sales representative for the Agilquest Forum and will guide today's demonstration. Jeremy Deo, Application Architect, will guide us through Agilquest Analytics, the built-in analytics tool designed specifically for the Agilquest Forum. And finally, we will hear from Torrance Houlihan, our Vice President of Product Management, who will give us a preview of the features to come in our next Agilquest Forum release coming at the end of the quarter. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll turn it over now to Don Davidson for a bit of background on the Agilquest Forum. Don?
Thank you, Brandon, and thank you all for joining us today to see why we continue to be excited about the market's reception to our new SaaS platform, the Agilquest Forum. Today, we're also pleased to share some of the exciting new enhancements coming in the Winter 18 release just a few weeks from now. Many of you are familiar with our flagship software, Onboard, which continues to help enterprise and government organizations manage workplace assets and track utilization through a highly configurable reservation system with countless integrations and an advanced workplace analytics platform, and the industry's only two-way integration with Microsoft Exchange. In fact, we will be announcing the release of Onboard 6.0, a new version of our gold standard workplace solution with significant improvements in security and application performance, so stay tuned for that in the coming weeks. As many of you know, the workplace continues to evolve and modernize at a rapid pace, with people spending more of their time working outside of their corporate space. At Agilquest, we recognize the need to design a product that bridges the gap between corporate and co-working space, removes the barriers between work and collaboration, and introduces new tools to help organizations optimize their underperforming or empty space. That's how our new transformative platform, the Agilquest Forum, was born. The Agilquest Forum makes it easy for workers to choose the resources they need to collaborate and be productive both inside and outside the office by offering employees access to both private space and space outside of your portfolio, all within the same technology platform. And we help asset owners optimize space to generate additional revenue by offering the ability to publish unused excess space to clients and business partners to drive increased visibility and collaboration. Agilquest is simply bringing the sharing economy to the workplace. Offering choice and sharing workplace assets is only part of the value. As the only enterprise-class SaaS platform that truly scales with your business, the Agilquest Forum reduces the total cost of ownership by avoiding installation and ongoing infrastructure costs, minimizes IT support costs, and eliminates ongoing upgrade fees. Today's dynamic workplace demands quick and easy access to accurate utilization data. The ability to quickly and easily answer questions about how your space is working for your people, knowing when and where your employees are working outside of your facilities, and where inefficiencies may be hiding in your portfolio is crucial to any organization. You must have accurate utilization data that quickly provides answers to these questions. The Agilquest Forum includes an integrated analytics engine with pre-built reports and widgets that provides real-time insight quickly and accurately on how employees choose to engage your space. So let's get started. We'll begin our program today by showing you the Agilquest Forum, including the Agilquest Analytics, and then peek into what's coming in the Winter 18 release. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael Matat, who's going to walk us through the Agilquest Forum. Michael?
Thanks, Don. And as a quick note, like Brandon mentioned in the beginning, if anything comes up as we go through this demonstration together that you may have questions on, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll make sure to cover them by the end of the presentation. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. So I have, there we go. All right, so logging in through our portal will land us on the main page. One thing that you'll notice right away is that we do have a large banner with its own text. This is going to be customizable to your own organization in a 6-image carousel type view so that you can showcase your buildings and brands, your employees, or whoever else you decide to invite into the system and use your space and assets. In addition, another thing about the Agilquest Forum as a whole is that it's largely pictorial based. The thought process behind developing it this way is so that it would be extremely intuitive and easy to use. One of the barriers to success that we see organizations face when they try to implement a similar solution or try to take on maybe a hoteling policy is that they can't get their end users to adopt the system. They're just too complicated. If you think of any modern apps nowadays like Uber, Airbnb, or any of those travel websites like Expedia, they don't require a lot of time on the phone with customer support or sorting through a user manual in order to get the basic service. The same thing is going to go for the Agilquest Forum. It's extremely easy to use and requires little to no end user training. And that's going to go both for your average daily user and your administrator. When you're managing the system, it's a little bit more hands-on, but it doesn't require any sort of IT experience. So what we'll do is I'll take you through one time, show you how quick and easy it is to use and make just a simple reservation, how your average employee or user is going to use this on a daily basis or weekly basis. And then I'll go a little bit more in-depth a second time around to show you how much functionality there really is in the platform. So going right into it, there are 4 main criteria that are involved in a search. I already have the first 2 columns preset in my personal user settings, and then the second 2 columns will be our start and end time. Let's just go ahead and book a workspace for the rest of the day. Once I set the time, I simply search by the list, and it's going to show me all workspaces that are available at the coastal office that can be reserved within the time frame that I've specified. So I simply search through the list. Office 3 looks good to me. From here, I just need to name the reservation and submit it. And now from 10:30 a.m. Pacific time to 5:30, for the remainder of the day, that Office 3 is mine. From that point, I would receive a notification email containing an ICS calendar file and a confirmation that the reservation was made successfully. And what I can do with that ICS file is attach it to my calendar and block off time for that day as an event. So if we're sharing calendars with all of our other coworkers, they can see that I'm in Office 3 for the remainder of the day. They can find me and that sort of thing. Additionally, 15 minutes prior to the start time of my reservation, I will receive another email asking me to check in. It's going to direct me to the website, to log in, and then scroll down here, and I have the option to check in. And I'm going to stop here for a moment to speak briefly on checking in. It's not something that you need to require. It's not mandatory. However, in a best practice scenario, you would require your employees and users to check in because it's going to count as a presence detection event and go straight into our analytics. And if you're interested in things like actual utilization of your assets and real estate, it's going to be extremely important to check in, but I'll leave the bulk of that discussion to Jeremy Deo later. To add on to that, we have been in this industry for over 20 years, so we do realize that some organizations demand different forms of checking in, and we have experience integrating with features like network presence detection, where you log into your network's Wi-Fi, and that will count as a check-in event. And we also have worked with badge readers in the past, where you swipe your badge, and that'll count as a check-in. So I just wanted to include that in there. And let's go through one more time and really outline everything and show you how much more customization you have in making a reservation. So again, there's 4 main columns that go into a search. The first column is going to be our venue or location. So if you're an organization with multiple buildings, this is where I can see which ones I'm allocated to. So if I am going from one office to another week by week, this is where I can search through it. And you've also heard me at one point say asset a couple times. Well, this second category is where we can choose our category of asset. Most people are familiar with reservation systems dealing with just office spaces and conference rooms. Well, one of the great things about the Agilquest Forum is that you can add any type of asset into the system. So anything that your organization offers that's reservable, you can add it in, whether that's AV equipment, parking, storage lockers. There's a group we're working with who's actually testing out the platform to manage warehouse space. So pretty much if you can imagine it, you can put it in the system and take advantage of it. Then the last two columns are start and end times, obviously. In the last column, end time, you do have the option to make recurring or no end date events. A no end date reservation would be useful if you were trying to manage more permanent type seat management. And then the recurring interface is going to look very similar to how you make a recurring event on Outlook for those familiar with that layout. And we do offer two different types of views right now, one being the list view, which I went over earlier, and then one being the calendar view. Let's go ahead and take a look at that right now. For conference rooms, that is. So I can easily see on a day-by-day basis what's blocked off, what's available. I can actually scroll over conference room 1 here, see that Jay Stowers reserved the room for a quarterly marketing meeting. I can see on a rental room that we have, Ashley requested it, so an administrator is going to have to go in there and approve that reservation before it goes through. And let's just use the example that I'm going to book a conference room for a project my team and I are working on later, but we have some very specific needs as far as what the room offers in order for us to be successful. We do have the option to filter down the list, so maybe, you know, I need a whiteboard and windows. It could also help filter down a larger list for organizations with 30-plus assets or something along those lines. So I can simply click into conference room 2. I see it has exactly what I need. It brings me into a page with the full details of conference room 2, such as the exact address, the hours of operation of this particular asset, all the rules and policies associated with conference room 2, and a full list of its amenities and attributes as well as the capacity. Another thing you may have noticed is that we do have an integration with Google Maps. So if you were maybe visiting this coastal office for the first time, could be useful to go ahead and get some directions or check around what's available for lunch, even get a street view so you can get acclimated with the area. And additionally, the fields are going to be similar to the reservation we initially made with the workplace. We still need to name it. However, we do need to indicate how many people are expected to attend this reservation. It's going to be tied directly into our analytics, so you can track exactly how many people are going to these conference rooms. You know, are your rooms big enough? Again, I'll leave that for Jeremy. And then we do have a private function in case you needed to hide the details of this event in the calendar view. So if other users are looking at the calendar view we were just on, my name would not be attached, and neither would the description here. The description is going to be definitely useful for sending out instructions to my team on the project we're working on. When I submit this reservation, all invitees are going to receive the ICS file I mentioned earlier, as well as whatever instructions I decide to include in the description. Now, on top of all this, we are able to add additional assets to the conference room, and I can do so right here. So if we needed something like a projector or catering services, we do have the option, and I can add it very simply. Now I have a projector attached to my conference room reservation for later. And the great thing about it is if we have an equipment manager, they will receive a notification email sent through the Agilquest Forum with instructions to bring the projector to me at 10:30 and pick it up back at 11. That's something that's going to be handled on the administrative side, which I'll just go over briefly now. We can check it out together. So going across the top here in the settings, under reservations is where I can manage all current reservations in the system. It could be useful for an office manager to be able to adjust the time of a current reservation to make room for something maybe more important, or in the case of maybe someone called out for the day, I could easily free up that space to others so that we're taking advantage of our space the best we can. Under requests is where I would find Ashley's request from earlier to use our conference room. I can approve or deny it, and it's very easily managed at this table. Under locations, assets, and groups, that's where we manage all three. It's very simple, and if anyone wanted to go on a deeper dive into maybe the rules and policies associated with the three, I'd be happy to do that on a one-on-one seminar. I did, however, want to touch on groups and permissions last. This is where you're going to get a lot of flexibility within the system in that you can assign all users to user groups, which are then attached to specific asset groups that they have specific allocations to. So if I had maybe a group of contractors or partners or even just friends I wanted to bring into my organization, but I didn't necessarily want them to be able to reserve the same assets as the rest of my employees, or maybe they needed permission first, this is where I could manage that. And lastly, I did want to touch on the book function. If you had an office manager who was making the reservations for others, you wanted a little bit more of a hands-off approach, this is where they could do so. I can make reservations for others using my own permissions. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Jeremy Deo to discuss analytics.
All right. Thank you, Mike. All right, so, excuse me, let's talk about analytics. You know, it's kind of important to really understand, you know, what analytics are. And, you know, some people wonder, you know, is it just a fancy term for reporting? Analytics is actually when you have data that is actionable and you can use that data to make more informed and better business decisions. And so when you look at the Agilquest Forum and the analytics that we provide, it really does provide tremendous value to a lot of different types of users. So, you know, a facility manager, for instance, you know, what are they interested in? They're going to be asking questions like, you know, how many people are assigned to my building? And, you know, they want to know how much that building is being used. So they're going to be looking at utilization data. And space planners, in particular, they're going to be looking at utilization as well. They're going to be looking at, you know, that utilization broken down by space type. And so they want to know, you know, do we have the right mix of space? And are people making reservations outside of our organization because we don't have the right mix of space inside our organization? And so they're going to be looking at trends. They're going to be looking at, you know, is the utilization changing over time? And, you know, architects and consultants, you know, they're also going to be looking at utilization. If you, you know, look at this, it's actually a very affordable way to measure utilization compared to, you know, other ways of doing it, manual ways, going around with a clipboard every few months, and not to mention that it's more accurate. You know, another group that's really going to be making use of this data is your management team, CFO in particular. You know, we all know that real estate is a very, very valuable asset, and, you know, they're going to be looking at how much excess capacity do we have, and, you know, what are our options for that? What can we do with that? And so, you know, that's why analytics is so important, because it really does provide answers to key questions that people are going to be asking. And so, with that said, let's just take a quick look at analytics, and we'll kind of walk through the application. I've set up a couple of dashboards that we can look at. And so what we're looking at here, this is actually the default user dashboard that every user in the system has access to. So when you're in the Agilquest Forum and you click on analytics, you will see your user dashboard. And we'll take a closer look at the widgets themselves in just a little bit. But what I want to do first is just kind of show you how easy it is to create a dashboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up to the top. I'm going to click New Dashboard, and I'll give it a quick name. Save. And if I want to create a dashboard with certain widgets, I'm going to just go in and I can literally just click on the widgets that I want and install them. And once I've got all the widgets installed, I'll go back to my dashboard, and here we go. And so with just a few clicks of the mouse, I was able to create a dashboard with some really meaningful widgets that I can use when I log into analytics. So what I thought we'd do next is just kind of take a look at some of the dashboards. I had created a couple of them for this seminar. And so if I'm a facility manager or a space planner, I set up a dashboard here, and we can look at some of these widgets. So you can see across the top we have some widgets that will show me, how many employees are assigned to my facility. I can see, how many reservations are being made inside my organization, how many reservations are being made outside. And I can even look at this by the types of space that are being booked. Are the workspaces being booked more? How about the collaboration space? Are they using equipment, parking? And I can look at it too further. So collaboration space limitations, I can even look at that by the size of the groups. Are they being booked by 2 to 5 guests? 6 to 8, 9, 11, and also, if I wanted to, I could look at the data broken down by the day of the week. And so, I can look at this, are the reservations being made inside versus outside of the organization by day of the week, and see which days of the week tend to have higher utilization. And of course, I can also look at the number of cancellations, the number of no-shows. So, if I was managing a co-working space, for instance, let's take a look at a report that might be useful. We've got a couple of reports here, and one of the reports is a reservation list, and I might be interested in running this. If I'm managing a co-working space, I can run this very, very quickly. I have a lot of options here. I can apply filters. I can print this report. If I want to, I can download this. We have several output options, PDF, Word file, Excel file. And so it's very, very quick. We've provided a very fast way to go in and run reports. It remembers how you run the report. So if you are routinely extracting it to Excel, for instance, you'll see an export option here. You can actually export to Excel directly from this screen as well. So it's very, very fast to go in and run reports and work with the data. So let's jump back over to the dashboards, and we'll take a look at a user dashboard that I created. And, the interesting thing about this is I can look at this and see in my location what are the popular days. And so, if I'm booking a space here and I know that Wednesday is the busiest day in my location, I may choose to work at home on that day and, not come into the office and have to fight for a space. Or, I can also look at the popular times in my location. In this office, how busy it is by the time of the day. I can also look at the number of upcoming reservations that I have, how many reservations have I made total, and how many times have I canceled or not shown up. Now, we do make this data available on our user dashboard, and some of you may wonder, why are we showing this? One of the things that we're working on is to add a gamification component to the Agilquest Forum, and it's really important that your users are adopting the system, they're using it to make reservations, they're checking in, and so we provide these widgets because a lot of this data is going to be feeding into that gamification component. The more that they use the system and the more fun we can make it for them to use the system, the better data that you're going to be getting, and it's really a win-win, all around. You're going to have really accurate utilization data that you can use to help make those, business decisions. So one of the things that we did is you can also share dashboards. And so, I've created this dashboard and maybe I want to share this with one of my colleagues. And so it's very easy to do that. I just go up to the options. I'm going to click on Share. And from here, I can see that I'm the owner of the dashboard, and I can click on Add User. And I can go in and, let's say I want to share this dashboard with Don. I can just go in and add him. And now when Don logs into the Agilquest Forum and he clicks on Analytics, he'll have access to this dashboard that I've shared with him. Now, by default, I've given him read-only access, but if I wanted to, I could also allow him to make changes to it. So I could set this to view and edit. So now he'll actually be able to go in and make changes to this dashboard. Another option that I could do is if I wanted to, I could enable editors of the dashboard to be able to manage the sharing. So if I wanted Don to be able to share this dashboard with other users, I could just enable that toggle switch there, and now he can go in and actually manage sharing for the dashboard as well. I'm going to jump over to the reports again, and as an end user, if I wanted to, I could also run a report for my activity in the system, and I can go in and actually see the reservations that I've made over the past year. I can look at the types of reservations that I've used, the types of space, and I can also see the history of reservations that I've made. And there's lots of different options. You can customize the coloring, the color of the report, and so on. So one of the things that we've tried to do is we've tried to build this so that it is mobile friendly, and so it doesn't matter which device you're using, whether you're working with a desktop computer, a tablet, or a phone. Regardless, you're going to be able to go in and use the system. So you can see here that if I scale the browser, all of the dashboard widgets scale very nicely, and you can see the dashboard. So with that said, hopefully this gives you kind of a good overview of Agilquest Analytics, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Torrance Houlihan, who's going to talk about some exciting enhancements coming to our winter 2018 release.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. We are getting ready for a release. It is coming out in just a few weeks. Now, I just want to touch on something for a minute with this, and I know Don mentioned it at the outset, that this is a SaaS-based application. And what that means to you, among other things, is that all of these upgrades become immediately available to you. You don't have to deal with internal IT departments. You don't have to deal with upgrading the system, managing your internal servers, and so forth. Because this is hosted and maintained up at Amazon Web Services, when we push this release, it becomes immediately available out to you at no extra cost. So these things are going to be immediately delivered to you in the coming weeks. Let me begin sharing. Now, I will say what we're about to see is a kind of a view into the development environment. So some of the data here isn't going to match exactly with what Michael showed you and what you may have seen in some other demos that we're doing, because we're now actually kind of going behind the curtain and showing you a preview of some things that are coming. There are many, many features that are part of this winter release that we've been working on and very excited about, but there are three in particular that I'm going to talk about today because they've probably been the most requested features that we could add to the new platform. So the first is a new way of searching for rooms when you're making bookings. Michael mentioned when he was doing his demonstration, the search by list and search by calendar view. You'll see on my screen, there's a third option here, which is called search by floor plan. Just like on his, my choices are preset based on my preference. It's very personalizable, so each individual defines their preferences. I'm going to go ahead and search by floor plan, and you can immediately see a floor plan image of the spaces that are available to me. I can hover over and see pictures of the different desks and the prices. Booking from here is just as easy as booking from the calendar was. I simply click. I'll just call this my desk. Submit, and that is immediately booked for me. We do use different visualizations for available versus not available. We can't just rely on color here, so there are some shape distinctions as well for people to easily discriminate between the spaces that are available to them and those that are not. I can pan and zoom on floor plans so I can make sure I can see everything available to me. You can see these 3 offices just happen to be offices that I don't have a permission to book. So again, I'll go back to the home page here and show how that works. It's very simple. I would pick my date and time, just click on the search by floor plan, and I can immediately go and look around on the floor plan, get a feeling for the different offices, and if something's in use, I can see who has it and how long that is booked. So this is a big feature that a lot of people have been asking for. If you are familiar with our onboard system, you're probably very familiar with floor plans. They're a big part of the onboard system. The way floor plans and hotspots are managed in Agilquest is much more streamlined than it was in onboard, and it's something that really, I would say any end user could do it, but of course it's permission protected so that only certain people have the ability to do it. But it's very intuitive, very straightforward, and I'd be happy to demonstrate that in more detail to anyone who might be interested in seeing that. Another area that gets a lot of questions, a lot of people are interested in it, is the business rules behind the Agilquest platform. You probably also know that all of the experience that we gained in onboard over the years has been incorporated into Agilquest. It's obviously delivered in a much more visual, much easier to use interface, but the feature and function is really all here. So let me go ahead and I'm going to call up one of those assets that I was just looking at. We'll pick Office 15 here. And you can see, I know Michael didn't touch on this in great detail, but there is quite a bit of information behind each asset, not only where it's located, but what amenities may be there, hours of operation and schedules down to the asset level. But where I'm going is to the policies. And there are even more policies, candidly, than are displayed here. We just haven't gotten them all displayed in the front end yet. But one of the new ones that is in here is right in the middle of the page, and it's this thing called back-to-back reservations. This is something that has been requested in the onboard world for years, and it's something that is now available in the Agilquest Forum. What this does is it allows you to set rules and parameters around how often people can book these rooms. So this rule can go hand in hand with a maximum reservation duration. So let's say you have a high demand room that you want to put a 90-minute max duration on, so you can only book this room no more than 90 minutes at a time, and you might say you can only have that room once a day, or there might have to be a 4-hour gap in between your booking of that room. So that's how these rules would come into play to help you govern how often people can book certain rooms, particularly those that are in high demand. There's another level of this rule which kind of exists at a higher level, at a forum level, which can actually apply across all assets within a category as well. So this is on a specific asset, so you might have one very high demand room that you want to put rules on, or you might want to put kind of a broader rule across all conference rooms or all team rooms to set these back-to-back policies to help govern how often they can be booked. And stay tuned to this because there are more rules that are soon to be coming in the releases coming up later this year. And then the last item that I'm going to touch on, and this is another one that has been very hotly requested, is some digital signage. So this is a Windows-based digital sign, so it'll run on any tablet. This is a very similar interface to one that we use on an iOS device, but this is a Windows-based digital sign. It is a room-specific digital sign, so it would go up outside of a room, show you when a room is available. When you're close to the start of a reservation, so when you get within 15 minutes of a start time, it's usually 15 minutes, it's configurable, but usually 15 minutes before a start time, they'll switch to yellow, that it's waiting now for the person, or if your room is in use, it will show as red and the information about the bookings that are going on in the room. So this is something that many people have been asking for because they're looking for just very simple software, simple to use, simple to deploy, simple to support locally. And that's really what the Agilquest Forum offers you. By being a cloud-based software platform, you can tap into it. If someone were to say that they wanted to do this, they could be up and running today on it, creating items in the software, and then you would immediately be able to add your digital signage to it and really have a full enterprise class SaaS solution immediately available to you. And that's probably a good transition, Don, for me to hand it back to you to talk about how people can actually price or acquire the Agilquest Forum.
Thank you, Torrance.
The last thing we'd like to share with you today regarding the Agilquest Forum are two pricing options that we have introduced. The first is a pay-as-you-grow plan, which offers you the flexibility of paying for space based on how it's used and the number of reservations each asset has made. And the Evergreen plan, which is an unlimited plan, and it allows you an unlimited number of reservations for each asset that you put into the system. So we've tried to introduce pricing options to meet a wide range of requirements based on the feedback we've received from customers. So in addition, this aligns to our sharing economy mindset of trying to make the platform as flexible to scale with your business as your business changes and grows over time. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Brandon, who can share some questions.
Thank you, Don. Torrance, Jeremy, Michael, thank you all so much. Now we're going to answer some questions. I will pose them in the order that we received them. The first one here, does the system work with sensors to check in?
So the short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is sensors is a very vague term. So whoever asked that question may want to reach out directly to us to talk about specifically what they have in mind. But as was mentioned during the conversation, there are network access tools, digital signage, I'm sorry, not digital signage, building access tools. There's geofencing. We have in the past worked with other in-room sensors to detect presence. So the short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is reach out to Jessica, the contact information on the screen, and we'll be happy to provide some detailed information to answer their question specifically.
Thank you. I have another one here regarding Outlook. One of the issues with the current system is that we get multiple emails every time a room is booked. Is there any way to add the reservation to Outlook without having to accept an email invite?
Okay. Don, I'll be happy to take that too if you want.
Please.
So first off, whoever asked that question, thank you for being an onboard customer. You may or may not know that in onboard we actually have direct Exchange server integration. So it sounds like you have a type of integration with Exchange that relied on emails going back and forth and accepting ICS appointments to get them on your calendar, which is okay for those organizations that don't want to take the next step of integration. But in onboard particularly, we do have direct Exchange server integration, so you don't have to deal with emails. You book it in onboard, it immediately shows up in Exchange and all of the interfaces to Exchange, which includes Outlook. Or conversely, you could book it in your Outlook client or Outlook Web Access or however you're using your interface to get to your calendar. Book there and it immediately comes over to you onboard. So that's a fantastic live two-way integration with Exchange, and you can forget about those emails. That's not yet available in Agilquest. It is coming in Agilquest, but that is right now available in onboard, and you may want to reach out to your Agilquest account manager to talk about how we can maybe bring that level of Exchange integration to your organization.
Speaking of two-way integration, we have a question here. Do you have Google two-way integration planned?
We do. In fact, we are working on Google integration right now. That is a hot topic for some of our customers. And it's also one that appeals to a lot of organizations that are attracted to the Agilquest Forum as a SaaS-based, cloud-based platform. That tends to go hand in hand with people who use the Google Suite and Google Calendar. And we are, in fact, working right now towards Google integration. And stay tuned, because that could be coming to you as soon as this summer.
Excellent. We also have a question here regarding mobile apps. Do you have a dedicated iOS or Android app?
It is not released to the store yet. The answer is yes. Let me start with that. We haven't released it to the store yet because we just decided to add one additional feature to it, time-based notifications. So the mobile apps have very similar functionality to what Michael demonstrated. They're very visual. I think we may have a video. I'll have to see if it's cleared for release, if people want to see what it looks like, on what they look like. But they're very visual, very engaging, just like what Michael showed you. They have geofencing, like you do in onboard mobile apps, if you're familiar with those. So as you get close to a building, you get notice that you're close enough to check in. But it didn't have time-based notifications, and we wanted to include that in the first release. So those will be released here literally in the coming weeks. That's the last bit that's being added to the mobile apps.
Well, and I think it's also important to note that with the Agilquest Forum, it's also responsive design. So, you know, whatever screen you're on.
Yeah, shame on me for not saying that, Brandon. Thanks for pointing that out. Because like Jeremy pointed out with Agilquest Analytics, we've really built everything to be fully responsive. So you can run the Agilquest Forum exactly the way Michael and I did it, but from a smartphone. Now, when you have the purpose-built mobile apps, you can do some other things like the geofencing and the notifications and such. So there are some benefits to the mobile apps. But for certain organizations, and we struggle with this in onboard, frankly, there are some organizations that don't want to use mobile apps. They only want to use the website. So the Agilquest Forum was really built with those folks in mind, too. So you'll have a very rich experience, whether you're using the purpose-built mobile apps, iOS and Android, or the native responsive Agilquest Forum web.
Excellent. I just had a question come in. Do we have the wayfinding feature?
So that's a little bit like a question about sensors. That's a tough one to answer without a little more information. But let me tell you what we are doing. We are building, as I mentioned, the floor plans are coming in the winter release, so that they're coming in about the next 3 weeks. They'll be released up to AWS. And that is the first step in that strategy of internal navigation, internal wayfinding, locating people, locating teams, and so forth. So the floor plans were a necessary first step. They're in the application now, coming this month, as you just saw them. And then additional locate and wayfinding capabilities are going to be built on top of those. And again, because this is a cloud-based platform, those will be delivered automatically to you as soon as they're available.
Thank you. So have you encountered customers who need this workplace reservation system but have security challenges?
Sure, and there's a couple of different security challenges. There's the infrastructure and traditional application types of security questions, and then there's physical security challenges based on the individuals that may be accessing space in your organization. That's very organization and policy specific. Some organizations would be very difficult to do that. Others may have the ability to allocate certain parts of their space And, you know, what we've seen kind of the most interest in are those trusted partners and customers, people that I've already got a business relationship with, who I need to work with and collaborate with, and trying to make our space or their space available to those individuals or organizations. And but this is a broad topic that I think the industry is talking a great deal about, particularly when it comes to the physical security of space and how do you access it. So.
Well, gotcha, Don. We had another question regarding the pricing models. Looking at those tables, does this mean that there are no implementation costs?
There's a small one-time implementation fee, which covers the initial provisioning and setup. But correct, once the forum is set up, each client has their own instance of the application, and the pricing is based on the number of assets you choose to put on the system, and then the consumption or unlimited use based on the number of reservations that that an organization would have for the number of assets that they have on the platform. So for the most part, the answer is there's a nominal one-time implementation fee, and then it's either use fees or asset fees.
Well, and I think that, you know, as we're kind of coming to a close here, it'd be a great time to mention that if someone wanted to try the software, we offer any free trials or anything like that?
We do. We're excited that we're able to do that and do it in a very open and relatively quick manner. If you go to our website, you'll find the ability to sign up for a trial. It's a 30-day trial that gives you full access to your own forum, and you can go in and get a first-hand view of how the application is designed, its ease of use, the content and image-rich nature of the application, and find out for yourself whether it's a fit for your organization.
Thank you so much. I believe that's all the time we've got today. I want to thank you all so much for joining us. If you do have any additional questions, please do provide your email address in the chat window, and we will be happy to reach out to you with an answer as soon as possible. Once again, just reminding you that we do have private demonstrations tailored to your organizational needs. If you want to set up a demo or open discussion about our products and possible solutions for your organizations, or establish a free trial, you can reach out to Jessica Debus, our solutions coordinator. You'll see her email address on your screen there, and we'll be happy to set up a meeting with you. So please keep an eye on your inbox for product updates, new resources. Torrance mentioned we've got the new release for Agilquest Forum coming up shortly, and of course our next webinar. We do webinars on a bi-monthly basis, and also demo webinars every month on the Agilquest Forum. So once again, thank you all. So,
if I may,
please.
There's also an on release coming up. So I know there were some questions out there from people who are using Onboard.
Mm-hmm.
There is an Onboard release coming up soon too. So make sure you stay in touch with your account manager. If you're interested in that Exchange integration, we can demonstrate that to you and talk about how that works. But there'll be more information coming up on a major Onboard release here in the coming days.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Torrance. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope you have a great day.